Today, Professor Ninhauser will present his last episode. Let us welcome Professor Ninhauser.
The Book of Poetry, a paean to Zhou Dynasty building. The final poem to be examined, Mian, woven and unbroken. It's number 237. So it's one of the Odes in the Daya, our Greater Odes section, depicts the founding of the Zhou Dynasty, particularly the exploits of the grandfather of the first ruler, a man known to us as Gugong Danfu, a name that could be translated as the ancient Duke Danfu. There are other understandings, but we don't need to go into them. He moved the Zhou people, who were originally inhabitants of a small state during the Shang dynasty, away from the nomadic lifestyle that was their early tradition, into the area in southern Shanxi, preparing the way for his grandson to conquer the Shang sometime around 1050 before the current era. The most detailed account of his life and rule can be found in the basic annals of Zhou, the Zhou Benji, in Sima Qian's Shiji, Records of the Grand Scribe. And there we read, the ancient Duke Danfu again cultivated the enterprise to establish the Zhou dynasty, an enterprise of his ancestors Hoji and Gongliu. He accumulated virtue and carried out justice. The people of the capital all supported him. When the Shunyu and the Rongdi attacked him, these two groups were non-Han peoples living in what is now modern Shanxi and Shanxi. When they attacked him, desiring to obtain wealth and goods, he gave it to them. When they attacked, desiring to obtain his territory and his people, the people were all angry and wanted to give battle. The ancient duke said, the people enthrone a lord in order that he will bring benefits to them. Now the reason the Rongdi are attacking and battling us is to take my territory and people. For the people to be with me or for them to be with those others, what is the difference? The people want to give battle because of me, but I cannot bear to allow people's fathers and sons to be killed in order to keep myself their lord. Thus he left Bin, his capital, with his personal attendants, crossed the Qi and Ju rivers, traversed Mount Liang, and stopped at the foot of Mount Qi. Every person in Bin, holding up their elders and carrying their children, again submitted themselves to Danfu at the foot of Mount Qi. When other neighboring states learned of the ancient duke's humanity, many indeed submitted to him. At this, the ancient duke then abandoned the customs of the Rongdi, built city walls and residences, and settled the people in various cities. He appointed officials for the 5 offices. The people put all this to song and music to praise his virtue. So that's the Shiji text. The song they sang is this number 237, Mian, woven and unbroken. The poem is a long poem. It's primarily fu, or exposition. So that is to say, narrative sort. But it begins with a comparison.
Woven. Woven and unbroken are the gourds, large and small, as the early life of our people. From the Du to the Qi came the ancient honorable Danfu. He dug shelters, he dug caves. They still did not have houses and homes. The ancient honorable Danfu on the next morning drove his horses. Leading them west along the banks of the river, he reached the foot of Mount Qi. Then with the woman Jiang, he came himself to look for places to dwell. The plain of Zhou was so fertile, even bitter celery was like honey. Then he began, then he divined, then he notched our tortoises. They read stay, they read it's time. so he built homes there. And so he was content, and so he stayed. And so he created a left, and so he made a right. And so he set boundaries, and so he made territories. And so he dredged gullies, and so ordered the fields. From the west to the east, everywhere he then took charge of affairs. Then he summoned a master of construction. Then he summoned a master of labor, so that they could erect houses and homes. Their plume lines ruled straight. They lashed together planks as earthen molds to build an ancestral temple, reverent and respectful, carrying the earth in crowds and multitudes, throwing it into molds with clamors and shouts, raising walls with a pounding beat, smoothing them with a scraping sound. 100 walls rose up together. The beating of the work drums could not keep up. So he created the outer gates soaring the gates so high. So he erected the palace gate so grand. So he erected a great earthen shrine, whereby to parade the wronged captives. Though over time he could not stop the enemy's wrath, still they did no harm to our reputation. He thinned the oaks, he cleared the roads. He frightened away the Kun barbarians. Ah, how they panted in exhaustion. To cause the Yu and the Roi to pledge peace, King Wen quickened their yielding natures. I say he brought those estranged to follow him. I say he drew those from front and back to him. I say he caused those with petitions to rush to him. I say he brought his defamers to his defense.
Let us thank Professor Ninhauser for such a stimulating talk. This talk concludes his topic, the fountainhead of Chinese poetry, the Book of Poetry. To learn more from Professor Ninhauser on this topic, you may read his chapter on the Book of Poetry in our source book, How to Read Chinese Poetry, a Guided Anthology. Next week, we will get started on the topic, the Book of Poetry and Diplomacy. Professor Y.E. Lee of Harvard University will be our guest host. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Let us relax and listen to a reading of the poem in Mandarin.
诗经大雅绵绵绵瓜瓞，民之初生，自土卒期。古公胆府，陶赋陶学，未有家室。古公胆府，来朝走马，率西水浒，至于其下。原及江女，欲来续语。周原武武，锦图如仪。元始元谋，元弃我归。曰止曰时，注释于兹。乃谓乃止，乃左乃右，乃将乃礼，乃宣乃母。自西卒东，周原直事。乃招司空，乃招司徒，必立世家。其绳则直，缩板以载，作庙异义。修之仍仍，夺之轰轰，筑之登登，削楼平平。百堵皆兴，高谷福盛。乃立高门，高门有抗；乃立应门，应门锵锵；乃立种舍，容丑优行。四不舔绝韵，义不损学问。坐欲拔矣，行道对矣。坤宜退矣，为其会矣。于睿至绝成，文王贵绝生。欲曰有叔父，欲曰有先后，欲曰有奔奏，欲曰有御武。